SpaceX Starlink is refocusing on gaming and streaming. Here's why. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me for tea time. Today, we have a little bit of dark temptation. So good, so good. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today is a technology day. You guys have been asking me questions that have to do with jitter and latency and ping and all of this stuff in the JC Live events, the JC Live show that I do on Fridays, a lot of times with my wife, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you've never been there, stop by. Anyways, today I want to answer some of those questions, and the reason being is when I go live, it's almost impossible for me to really dig in a little bit. Now, let me preface this video with it's going to take a little while for me to give you the information. Hopefully I learn you something. Hopefully you get some good information out of this, learn a little something, and you can take it with you down the road. When someone asks you about this, you'll be like, yeah, I know about that. Some guy taught me on the internet, on YouTube. Well, hopefully I could be that guy for you. If I get something wrong, that's okay. Just let me know down in the comment area. I've been doing this for a long time, but sometimes I'll just make a mistake. It's okay. Anyways, I was reading an article last night that talked about Elon Musk and how he's refocusing SpaceX Starlink on gaming as well as streaming. And I thought that this was really interesting. Number one, I just love that Elon Musk is a gamer. I'm a gamer from way back. I used to sell video games. I owned a software company for 13 years, just to give you a little background on me. Anyways, I've always been a gamer ever since I was a kid. I was writing in assembly code. But at any rate, the article spoke about some of these things, and I want to kind of put them all together, tie a bow around it, and then give you the reasons behind all of this. Because yes, just to give you information and teach you something, that's one thing. But if I don't show you the why and just give you the how behind it, well, who the hell cares, right? If you teach someone how to do something, that's great. But if you give them the why, they can figure it out for themselves. And that's what I like to do on this channel. So I'm going to jump into this article and then I'm going to give you my commentary. And once again, I'm going to try to learn you a little something. So before I do, I just want to say if you get anything out of this video, consider throwing it a thumbs up. That'd be very helpful for the YouTube gods to shine their beautiful warm light on the channel. Also, if you're not subscribed, consider doing so. If you are subscribed, thank you. Click this little button over here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you'll be notified of it immediately. And if you want to say thank you for all of my hard work, you can click this little button down here, give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, that's perfectly fine. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. And if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks as of yet, go check them out. They're free. Go to JCristina.com/books. So the article starts out by saying, what does Elon Musk think about video games? On Lex Fridman's podcast, Elon Musk said this, quote, "It calms my mind. Killing demons in video games calms the demons in my mind. I've played a lot of video games because it's my primary recreational activity."
The following is a conversation with Elon Musk, his fourth time on this, the Lex Fridman podcast.
Elon Musk says that his Starlink satellite network is focused on improving the experience for gaming and streaming. Thank you, Elon. The tech billionaire launched Starlink as an independent network of satellites to bring fast internet access across the globe. Retweeting a user's post on the platform X, Musk says this, quote, "SpaceX is focused on making Starlink great for gaming and streaming." He went on to note that Starlink had already made improvements in reducing latency for streaming. Quote, "Significant improvements have been made to Starlink, latency, ping, and many more to come. Target is below 20 milliseconds. So like I said, I'm going to get into latency, into ping, jitter, and these type of things, just like you guys wanted me to in the JC Live show. But before I do, I want to say that Elon Musk, once again, is that gamer. And I looked some stuff up, and I thought that this was really, really interesting. I didn't even know this. So Elon Musk, way back in the day, when he was 12 years old, he ended up writing a video game, and it was called Blastar. And the source code was published in PC Office Technology. This was an old rag. That's when magazines were around, right? Industrial or technology magazines. Can't really find them very much anymore. Anyways, it was published in that magazine, and he won $500 for it. $500 at 12 years old, that's pretty damn good. Well, 40 years later, now at the age of 52, he's still an avid gamer. He plays all the damn time. He just loves Diablo 4 due to the mathematics that are involved into it. Obviously, you need to have some hand-eye coordination, but there's a lot of mathematics that goes into it in picking all of the stats on your character. He's been trying to kill Uber Lilith in this Diablo 4 for many, many months, and he finally did it. And matter of fact, during the holiday season, he ended up defeating, with two other of his gamer friends, a level 18 dungeon. One of the hardest dungeons there is on Diablo 4.
Hey, what do you know? A protection sign. Perfect. Send the dogs. Send them all in. No, I'm stuck. Uh-oh. Holy shit. What? Yes.
So this brings us into latency and ping, and why do gamers and streamers need it to be as low as possible? So what the hell is latency anyways, right? What is latency? So latency is basically the time that it takes a packet of data to round trip. Data to go from point A to point B and then back again to point A. That round trip is considered a ping, or your latency, and it is measured in milliseconds. Well, it's measured in milliseconds for most networks, unless you're like a HughesNet or Viasat. Anyways, talking about HughesNet and Viasat, you hear me all the time just poo-pooing on both of those satellite networks as being just complete trash, and that they are going to go the way of the dinosaur, the way of the dodo bird. They're just going to be history because Starlink is around. Now, is that being biased towards Elon Musk, SpaceX Starlink? Not really. That's just stating the facts. They're simply not going to be around very long. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, wait a second. HughesNet has the new satellite. The new satellite has faster speeds, yada, yada, yada. But the bottom line is even though the speeds are faster, the latency remains the same. What is the latency? Well, for SpaceX Starlink, the average latency is about 40 milliseconds to about 60 milliseconds right now. Remember, they're trying to get to below sub 20 milliseconds. Now, what is the latency for HughesNet or Viasat? Well, HughesNet is sitting around 600-700 milliseconds. Sometimes up to 1,000 milliseconds. 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second. So you could see the massive disparity between HughesNet or Viasat and Elon Musk SpaceX Starlink. Once again, you're looking at 40 to 50, 60 milliseconds to 600, 700, 800 milliseconds. 10, 12, 15 times faster Starlink is. Now, why is it? Why? Well, basically it has to do with that round tripping. How long does it take data to go from point A to point B and then back again? Now, there's a lot of things that are involved here. You have the distance between you and the server. You have the distance between you and your destination. Where are you sending those packets? Then you also have what is called hops. How many hops does it take to get to your destination? So what the hell is a hop, Joe? I'm glad you asked. So a hop refers to the number of intermediate devices that your packet has to go through to get to its destination and then back again. A perfect example is if I'm going to Germany, I'm sending a packet to Germany. Well, it would have to go from SpaceX Starlink, right? It would have to go into the server, the POP, the NOC, has to go to a server here, server there, it has to go internationally into Germany, maybe 2 different servers in Germany. You might end up having about 8 hops, 8 different destinations, 8 different intermediate destinations, 8 different servers that it has to go through. And each server produces latency because that packet of data has to go to each one of them wait in queue, and then get sent back off again. So the idea here is you want to have the least number of hops. This is what gamers are always looking for, servers near me. If you're a gamer, you know exactly what that means, getting a server as close to you as possible. But there is another factor here, and that is the latency between you and your ISP. Now, our ISP, being Starlink users, is in the air, right? It's sitting at 550 kilometers in space, whereas HughesNet or Viasat is sitting at 36,000 kilometers in space. You see the difference? 550 to 36,000. It's a massive difference. That is producing a ton of latency. So there's nothing, zip, that HughesNet or Viasat can do to fix it. There is no fix. There's just simple math there, and it's a damn long distance away. So, as a point of context, because we need to have a baseline, fiber optics, that is what we should all be striving for. Fiber optics is giving us about 1 to 10 milliseconds latency in the United States. Once again, we're seeing SpaceX Starlink trying to get sub 20 milliseconds. That is pretty damn good for accessing data or sending data through a satellite. But once again, look at the difference between 1 to 10 milliseconds with fiber, 20 milliseconds with Starlink, and now we're looking at HughesNet or Viasat at 6, 7, 800 milliseconds. Once again, there is no fixing this, and that's why I say they will go the way of the dodo bird. Now, what does this low milliseconds or low ping, what does this provide us? Why do we want it? Why do streamers want it? Why do gamers want it? Why is it so important? Well, if you're a first-person shooter gamer kind of person, right? Well, you're going to get added responsiveness if you have a lower ping. You're going to have a competitive advantage if you have a lower ping. You're also going to get smoother gameplay, less lag. You hear the word lag a lot. That's that stuttering that happens where you're losing data. Now, when it comes to video streaming, doesn't matter if it's going this direction or that direction. If you're watching TV, streaming the data, or if you're sending the data and giving someone else that feed, either which way, streaming is very important that you have low latency. When you're playing a video, you don't get that stutter stepping or that horrible buffering that happens where all of a sudden the voice cuts out, then it starts again, or your picture gets pixelated and it looks digitized. That's all perfect examples of extremely high latency or high ping. Now, the 10,000 pound elephant in the room that no one is discussing ever is jitter. Everyone's talking about latency and ping and lag and hops and all of this stuff, but they never talk about jitter, and jitter is so damn important. Well, now you're going to understand it. You're welcome. Anyways, what is jitter? So jitter basically represents the mean or the average of consecutive packets of data that's going out, right? The average response time, the average milliseconds. What does that mean? So you have data number one or packet number one. It goes from point A to point B and then back again. And maybe it takes 10 milliseconds. Well, the next consecutive data packet that goes out, what is the milliseconds? How long does it take? From A to B and back. What is that time? And now we take an average. Now there is a equation that you can do that you can go and plug in all of the information, but looking at the equation, some people are just going to be like, oh no, I don't get it. It's super, super simple to use. You just plug in your numbers and it will spit back out the data that you need. Or of course you could use a program to do it if you just don't want to be a geek like me and plug in the numbers. Now, the number that it spits out will be in milliseconds, but you can also calculate it actually in a percentage. And that would be the percentage of lost packets, let's say. But let's not look at it that way. Let's just look at it as in milliseconds. Lower milliseconds is better. Now, how does this work? If you send a packet out and it takes 20 milliseconds, then you send another one out and it takes 25, and then another one that's 21, and then another one that's 24, another one that's 23. All of the data is moving between 20 and 25 milliseconds. So your mean or your average would be around 23 milliseconds. So we'd see a differential, a difference of about, let's call it 3 milliseconds, 2.5 milliseconds, whatever. Close enough. Let's say 3 milliseconds is what your jitter is. That is pretty damn good. But where things really start going downhill is when we see jitter of 20, 50, 100, 200 milliseconds. What that would translate into in the real world is maybe you're getting, let's say 20, 30, 40 milliseconds, and then all of a sudden you're getting 400 milliseconds and 200 and 300 and 500. And then it's back down to 20, 30, 40 milliseconds, then back up to 400 again. Do you see that massive disparity? Well, that massive disparity would show your jitter is like 100, 200 millisecond jitter. That is a damn mess. What happens is now you lose consistency. You lose predictability. You have uneven, erratic delivery of data. So it's all over the damn place. So in that case, you would have a lot of stutter stepping, a lot of pausing. If you were in a first person shooter, you'd be pointing at someone, you would pull the trigger and you'd be like, I thought I just killed him. But then come to find out, he already moved somewhere else. He's in the other room. Why? Because you had that variance from 20 milliseconds all the way up to 400. During that 400 time, he's already gone. Okay. And you don't even realize it. The same thing would hold true with streaming video, either direction, going out or coming in. You would end up with buffering because it is taking so long. It's very erratic. All right. So to recap, you want to have low ping or low latency, but you also have to have low jitter. Jitter, once again, is mission critical. That is that variation between the lowest and the highest. You want it to be consistent. I would rather have consistent 50 milliseconds than 20 milliseconds that now has jitter that goes all over the place up to 100 milliseconds. Because it is not consistent, things will just get nasty really quickly. It is much better to have consistency than to have extremely low ping and then have extremely high jitter. Once again, high jitter is going to give you erratic behavior in your network, whereas low jitter is going to keep things the same. So if they're going slow and you have that latency, it is predictable. Whereas when it's high jitter is unpredictable, it's all over the place. So I hope you've gotten some good information out of this. But before I go, I want to say one thing. A lot of people talk about the latency and how Elon Musk is not going to be able to get to that 20 milliseconds. And I've said this in the past on a live show, and I explained why I thought that they will be able to do it. I don't think sub 20 milliseconds will be a problem for Elon Musk's SpaceX Starlink. Now, why? Once again, this channel is always about the why, not just the how. Why? The reason is the data that is going from your dish up to the satellite and then back down takes approximately 8 milliseconds. Now, there is some overhead that's involved. Remember, it has to also go to a ground station, then over to a POP, which is the point of presence, out into the internet, then back to the POP, and then from the POP to the ground station, back up to the satellite, and then back down to your dish. So there is a lot that goes on. Once again, all that I just talked about is called what? This is a review. Hops. How many hops, right? You didn't remember that, did you? Come on, get it together. Rewind, watch it again. That is also going to determine how fast Elon Musk SpaceX Starlink is going to be able to go. So 8 milliseconds is the absolute minimum. That is it. But once again, there is that overhead. There is that other additional latency that's just simply going to happen. So getting under 20 milliseconds, I don't think is a problem. I will give them an additional 8 milliseconds for latency. So let's say 16 milliseconds. I bet we will be able to see SpaceX Starlink hit a 16 millisecond threshold. Be able to hit 16 milliseconds. That is only 6 milliseconds slower than the slowest fiber. And we're using a satellite. That's insanity, guys. That's amazing. Now, how are they going to be able to do it? Come on, how? The only way that they can do it, once again, we have 8 milliseconds total round trip, right? The only way to speed things up is on the ground. That means from the ground stations to the POPs or the point of presence, right? The other way to speed it up is to reduce the number of hops. How do you reduce the number of hops? Well, once again, instead of going from the satellite down to a ground station, from the ground station to the POP, from the POP back out to the POP to the ground station, back up and down, how do you do it? Well, you use lasers. So instead of going through a ground station that might be far away from your destination or from the dish, maybe you send the information to a satellite that's closer to the POP. Think about this. My POP is sitting in North Carolina. So instead of going through a ground station in Florida and then sending that out through fiber optics to North Carolina, which is 700 plus miles away, how about if the data goes up to the satellite, then that satellite over me shoots the data to right above North Carolina and then back down? That takes a lot of terrestrial movement of data away. It limits the number of ground stations that are necessary. Think about it. That is one way to do it. How are they going to do it? I don't know. But as a network guy, that is the way I would do it. I would alleviate as many ground stations as possible. And then wherever you have to have them, all right, make them as fast as possible through multiple fiber optic cables going to the same destination. So I hope you found this educational, but if not, at least entertaining. As I said before, if you have, throw the video a thumbs up. That would be greatly appreciated. Share it with your friends, family, colleagues, Reddit, on Facebook, wherever. Your community. Definitely share it. That will help us grow this channel. Also, if you're looking for a VPN, check out PureVPN. The nice folks over there gave us a promo code, which is JCristina. Use JCristina at checkout. You'll get 15% additional off, or you can simply use the URL jcristina.com/VPN. And finally, head over to my website, jcristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the very many years, as well as my merch and all of my teas and everything else. If you find something that you like, please consider picking it up to support me and my family. That's it, guys. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all.